Sexual practices in Hatha Yoga. And finally, since we have moved on Hatha yogic texts, it is interesting to talk in general about the existence and non-existence of sexual practices in Hatha Yoga as such. And they existed. And the first thing that catches your eye here is one of the very first, and one can say the most cited in all later texts, and at the same time the most complete texts, the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra. In the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra, there are several references to sexual practices, and in particular, one of these references is the description of the technique of the vajroli mudra. The vajroli mudra is again rarely translated into Russian because again vajra, as I said, also means the penis, usually translated as diamond mudra, so as not to offend anyone. But in fact, when a certain introduction to the vajroli mudra has taken place, here's about again the attempts to castrate Hatha yogic texts. I'll read you my maximum exact translation to the text, and then I will show two other translations. Yogi living by his own will, svecchaya, icha is will and sva is own, sveccha is a very important concept in Tantrism. It is a certain higher state to which a person should come in Tantra to the feeling of independent choice, i.e., choice that is not caused by external factors. In fact, some sense of integrity. Further, who knows vajroli gains success even without the rules specified by yoga. So, it should be read. Look here, the translation that comes with such religious connotations. The yogi who knows vajroli should achieve success in yoga regardless of whether he follows the rules of yoga or leads a lifestyle only according to his wishes. The meaning is slightly different, but the translation into Russian from English of the same line, a yogi who knows vajroli is worthy of success even if he indulges his desires, neglecting the rules taught by yoga. As you can see, the theme about the fact that sveccha is a positive quality is completely thrown out. Maybe because people did not know the context of Tantrism, and maybe again, it works here a subconscious desire to eliminate the inner fullness of the corresponding text and maximally asexualize. Again, he achieves through sveccha, through his will, or he indulges his desires. Indulge desires, as you know, this is not the same. Sveccha, this is exactly what you are. You follow your desires and ignore external factors. It is a power experience, a strong experience. Also, the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra, proper sexual practices, ksira and angirasa, two substances. What is ksira, angirasa? It is quite probable that ksira refers to male seed and angirasa refers to female secretions. Literally, angi means parts of the body and rasa means juice and bodily juice. The second, difficult to obtain, a man should obtain with the help of woman through the right methods. A woman with passion in yoga practice should obtain it through the efforts with the help of a man. Here is a literal text, but note how it was translated. In fact, apparently what is it about? About some kind of sexual practice where people, say, cause each other the strongest experiences and rely further on these experiences. But let's see traditional translations, for example, into Russian. These two things, ksira, milk, and seed, although in fact quite different, vajroli should be performed with these two, but the second method is rare. The seed must be received by a yogi man through a woman face to face. A yogi woman must strive to receive it from a yogi man by making efforts. But this is still not the funniest translation. The funniest one is here. The second is hard to receive by men, and they have to use some tricks to receive it from a woman. A man should try to find a woman devoted to yoga practices. About the fact that a woman should also strive to receive it through a man, in general, this line fell out completely. Do you understand why, strictly speaking, it seems that sexual practices disappear in Hatha yogic texts? Yes, because they are translated in such a way that they disappear. And finally, some more lines from the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra. A man or a woman, regardless of each other's sex, will achieve success through a united practice. They practice together and succeed regardless of whether it is a man or a woman. But here is a religious translation. If practicing man and practicing woman without having a feeling that a helper, partner, is a person of the opposite sex, i.e. without having no sexual attraction, what are they doing there at all, huh? Connect with each other only to practice vajroli, they will succeed through this practice. As you understand, the meaning is changed to the opposite. If here it is originally said in the sutra that both a man and a woman can practice the same thing and they achieve the results together, in other translation it turns out that the main thing is that they do not feel attracted to each other, although the very word attraction is not used here. This is how the disappearance takes place. On the one hand, I showed how sexual practices are present in Hatha yogic texts, and on the other hand, how they disappeared in Russian translations and in English too. Let's go further. The Dattatreya Yoga Shastra is one of the first texts, at least, which reached us, because now the earlier texts are being translated. In particular, the Amrita Siddhi is now in translation in London. When translated, we will know it. But the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra is one of the first texts that talks about the techniques of working with male sexual energy, in particular with the male seed. In particular, talks about the technique of returning the seed. If the seed becomes mobile, it should be kept pulling up. Thus, the saved seed overcomes death, and death occurs as a result of the loss of the seed, and life occurs from its conservation. But this is a line which, in principle, is quite clearly written, where you need to put a seed, tamurdhvam. It means you need to move the top, understood in a funny way. And some people, I even knew such people, they are trying to practice, for example, when a man is finished, then suck his seed back somehow. For this purpose, some practices are used again with milk, etc. Usually it ends with a urethritis, because strictly speaking, this is the lay perception of vajroli. And if you type vajroli on the internet, you will learn many new things, what and where to shove. But in fact, it is clearly shown here the seed must be pulled up, because it is not about semen, as already emitted sperm, but about sexual excitement, by which you can play and not end at some point driving energy upward. So it is about something else. Wrong translations gave birth to a whole layer of fantasies on this topic. By the way, the same technique is given in the Hathayooga-pradipika, the most famous Hatha yogic text, which already explains how to do it. When breathing is stable, manas is stable, it stabilizes also the seed. It means you need to control your breath and you need to control the direction of consciousness. Again, one can argue about what the meaning is in general, why the seed should be controlled or not, but there is such an idea in Hatha yogic texts, and in general, you can think about it. Although, as you understand, the main way to control the seed is the nauli. Although it is necessary to say for the sake of justice that the idea and knowledge about controlling the seed archetypically went beyond the framework of only a yogic culture and was found even in poetics. For example, one of the greatest works of Kalidasa, the great poet of India, Kumarasambhava, the birth of the god of war, it is dedicated to how Parvati became the wife of Shiva and how she seduced him. And when she became the wife of Shiva, how they made love, they eventually gave birth to Skanda, or Kumaru, or Murungana, the god of war. And then in general, everything went well, but the entire 8th chapter of the Kumarasambhava is devoted precisely to the erotic connection of Parvati and Shiva. Shiva's wife became Parvati, but she was timidly anxious. She wanted to run away from God, even though she was terribly thirsting for his embrace. To please his wife and to enjoy, he taught her the art of passion, and a pupil grateful for the complicity, she bestowed herself to him. And the more he drank, the more he aspired. He became invisible to the gods at the behest of his beloved, who flushed with tender heat. As one night 100 months raced, but as the fire in the depths of the ocean, fed by water, thirsts constantly, they did not become saturated with intimacy. Being an omniscient God, he could, merging with Parvati, hold the seed. He wanted only enjoyment all the time. God was loving her for enjoyment, not for posterity. The works of Kalidasa are older than the Hathayoga-pradipika and the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra, but apparently this is the idea that yoga, and Shiva, remember, Yogeshvara is the Lord of Yoga. Yoga is somehow connected with the practice of holding the seed. But pay attention, holding the seed not only in the aspect of energy conservation, but to enhance the enjoyment. He wanted only enjoyment all the time. God was loving her for enjoyment, not for posterity. I.e., this practice was represented in Indian culture, and it was far beyond the actual Hatha yogic tradition. It seemed to be some kind of cultural commonplace.